There's nothing that is covered that shall not be revealed, folks. We're going to be going through some interesting stuff in this video. I just did a video over on my other channel covering this topic, and this is actually an extension, sort of a part two to it. This is amazing what I found. We're talking about our history here. We're talking about the American Indians and where did they actually originally come from. And this is something you most likely have never heard before, because this was something I just heard about today for the first time. I had kind of actually I didn't even have an idea. I just knew a little bit of history that kind of relates to this. Like, I remember hearing about the Grand Canyon and there being Egyptian treasure there. Other than that, though, I hadn't really heard anything like this. Essentially, what we're talking about here is some of the American Indians are from Egypt, from Assyria. They're from they're from ancient Babylon. They're from also other countries as well. We're talking about Mediterranean, and it's going to be pretty surprising to you what I got to show you, folks, because I'm guessing a lot of people have not seen this before. Check this out. For example, this is the name for Cherokee. Okay, you're talking about the Cherokee people. This is literally the name of their god. Okay, I'll show you this actually. Here it is. This is actually in Phoenician or Paleo-Hebrew. This is an ancient artifact, I guess you would say. And as you can see here, it has the YHVH. And this is literally something you can find in a lot of these ancient stone carvings and things like this. This is actually, I think, from Michigan. If you read the Cherokee, I actually covered this over on my other channel, creation, story, it literally reads like the first book, folks. In the beginning, Yahweh created the sky world and our mother earth. The waters around the earth were dark and deep, but the spirit of Yahweh moved upon the face of the waters. Does this sound a little familiar? Yeah, that's the Cherokees, okay? And like I said, if you go through this, and here's another example when I'm talking about how they actually say the name. Look at this. It's literally pronounced almost the exact same. It's because, and that's what we're going to cover in this video, it's because certain tribes, certain American Indian tribes, around 500 BC, came over to the Americas to avoid Babylonian captivity. Okay? So we're talking about what we call the mound builders, which almost look kind of like pyramids when you look at them. There's actually three different sort of eras to history for the American Indians. You have the mound builders, you have the Hopewell, and Adena. Now, the mound builders are actually before 500 BC. And the mounds, of course, I've talked about that on video before. Generally, they're giant, 8 foot, 9 foot, 10 foot, 11 foot tall people. We had a lot of articles written in newspapers, famous newspapers from today, New York Times, whatever, where back 100 years ago, or actually more than 100 years ago, usually like 100, 200 years ago, more like 1890, 1880, they'd have these articles talking about, oh, they found all these giant skeletons in Ohio or Indiana or Michigan, and they're on these mounds. And I've done videos talking about this in the past. That happened to be the time frame of like 2000 BC to 500 BC. Those were the mound builders. What we're going to talk about more here is the Hopewell, which are these people that came from ancient Egypt, Assyria, Babylon, Hebrews, all manner of people. And they came over, and especially, let me show you this here. I wanted to show you a couple things. I thought I had it written down, but these guys came over to escape the Babylonian captivity. Okay, this is what we're talking about. So that was around 500 BC, and they came over to. Let me show you the areas that they were in. Again, this is the time frame, 500 BC to 400 AD. If we go through this, We're talking here, Hopewell sites are Atlantic coast, South U.S., Tennessee, and Iowa. Now, also there's some rather interesting stuff going on around the Great Lakes as well. As you can see here, they came in through the Great Lakes, or down below with near Florida. This is those that were trying to get, as you would say, away from Babylonian captivity, which is around 580 BC, I think it was. And this is the type of buildings they would have. As you can see, it kind of looks like a sort of pyramid structure, which is rather intriguing. And how they set up their, this is the Chicoa State Historical Site here. And how it looked. It looks kind of like, again, a pyramid structure. This is the North Carolina mounds, as you can see here. Of course, you've heard of star, as you would say, forts and everything as well. Again, this is what I was showing you earlier. For the name of, as you would say, God, you have in their Native American languages, Yod He Va He. You see that? Yod He Va. Yohe-Wa, Yahud, Yahweh, Yahvoyaha. I don't even know how to say them, so I'm just trying to guess there a little bit there. You can see it's very similar though, right? Now, I showed a lot of things in my other video that are pretty surprising. I'll show you a little bit here because it's just amazing. This actually here's very amazing. This is from various American Indian languages. They have words, how they're spoken, how they're written, and compare them to Chaldaic. As you can see here, very similar. Okay? Shailu, Chemim, instead of Shemim, Abba, Ish, as you can see here, literally almost the exact same words. Now, these are various American Indian languages. What it was essentially is, again, it's kind of interesting. It reminds me of when we came over here. You know, you had the Spaniards, you had the English, and you had the French come over to this area, this country, and it was around, you know, 1600s, 1400s, depending on who you're talking about, right? Now, of course, Michigan wasn't even established till I think it was 1830. A lot of people think it was just, 17, whatever, but it was actually a little bit later on. So you have all these people from different areas coming over, right? The same thing happened back then. You had Assyrians, you had Egyptians, you had all these different people from different places coming over at the same time, and that's who make up the American Indians. You have different tribes are actually from different peoples. Like I mentioned about the Grand Canyon, that there's a lot of treasure, Egyptian treasure in the Grand Canyon. Of course, for 100 years, they didn't want people to know about this. There was an employee that worked for, I think it was the Smithsonian, that came out and put out an article talking about this, that there's this area in the Grand Canyon where there's this huge amount of Egyptian hieroglyphics and gold and just random items, right? Artifacts. And then they said, oh, no, this guy doesn't work for us. We don't even know who he is. And they said that for 100 years. They literally for 100 years said they didn't know who this guy was. He didn't work for us. He's not part of our company, like that. Then I think it was 2015, somewhere in there. It was recent, not that long ago. They put out a little article on their website. Oh yeah, that guy worked for us. Yeah. We're just telling the opposite for 100 years. No big deal. Who cares? It's not a big deal. Yeah. Of course, they also, if you go look at these, I've talked about this in the past as well. These articles from 100, 200 years ago talking about these mounds like we were just looking at there. They had more ancient mounds. Like I mentioned, there was people back in 2000 BC that were here, the mound builders. And, these were everywhere. Ohio, Indiana, Michigan, everywhere. Actually, there's a lot of other states too, Tennessee, all of them. They had these mounds and they would have giants' bones. I mean, they'd be like, 10 foot tall. And the Smithsonian would come along and take them all. They'd be gone. That's really nice of them, right? And then, of course, you'd never hear about it again, right? Of course, this completely fits in with evolution, right? So supposedly you're supposed to be getting taller, not the other way around. And so it doesn't fit the what they want you, you know, we're talking what they put in the history books here, folks. And a lot of this doesn't fit, and I'm actually starting to think that this is pretty prevalent everywhere, because I've done a few videos on other places as well, like India. I've covered China, their ancient history. If you go look into it, they have very similar things to this, where you see connections that, you know, you never heard about. Literally this. Or also, I mean, in the case of India, you had Thomas, as you would say, the doubter, who went there, and it was all of southern India. And there's like these ancient temples where it looks just like this Cherokee thing here, where they'll have like literally something written like this in some ancient Indian temple in India. And it will say literally almost like what it would say in this book here, okay? Almost word for word. And they have no clue. The people that run the temple don't even really know. They're like, oh, okay. Like they forgot their history or something. And it's interesting. Like I said, you can see it with this as well. Some of these ancient American Indians had their own, they had very nice architecture as well, even buildings and such, as you can see here. This was, you know, 500 BC, folks. Okay? And, I mean, you want to go check out my other video because I cover a lot of other things as well. Matter of fact, they even have this one American Indian tribe. I'm trying to remember which one it was. They had this copper tube that had this parchment in it, and the parchment had one of the 5 books of, as you would say, Moses. Part of it. We're talking an American Indian tribe, just something that was handed down to them from generation to generation. Oh, here, we got this copper tube here with this book in it, in Paleo Hebrew, you know, which was the original language, or Phoenician. And like, for example, with the Cherokees, they were clearly from this area, folks. Okay, the Cherokees. Here, if you look at the Cherokee green corn ceremony, it's literally the exact same as the fall feast. Okay? So, this is, we're talking this country, of course. I think you already know what I'm talking about. So that's where the Cherokees actually came from. During the Babylonian captivity, they came over here to avoid it. And that's who the Cherokees are. That's actually one of them. And literally, if you follow this, they have the exact same ceremony. All the exact same, except for the offerings are made unto the thunder beings, in the case of the Cherokees. Other than that, everything is the exact same. So, how is it their ceremony is the exact same? Why do they have literally Phoenician written on their stuff? Okay? Why are their words all the same? I mean, this is what I'm trying to get at. So it's just, I think it's pretty amazing. I just discovered this today, and I thought this was just so surprising. I thought I'd have to talk about it because it just seemed too good to not talk about. All right? I actually got a lot of stuff to go over here. Let's see here. What else do we got? Let's try to... Okay, so these are the Hopewell sites. The Atlantic Coast, Tennessee, and Iowa. And like I said, they're different for each tribe. Okay? And I was trying to get over to something over here. What was I going to show over here? Let's see. Oh, yeah, this is really interesting. I wanted to show you this. Okay, so this is... I'm trying to remember. This is the... Is this a Mi'kmaq? How do you say it? I think it's... I'm trying to remember the tribe's name. Oh, yeah, here we go. Mi'kmaq. This is who it is. Mi'kmaq tribe. These guys, their letters or hieroglyphs are literally the exact same as ancient Egypt. So this is a Smith-Anthon letter hieroglyphs from ancient Egypt. This is the Mi'kmaq Indian hieroglyphs. And if you go down the list, they look almost all the exact same. You see that? skip back too far. There we go. There's more. You can see their letter system is the exact same as ancient Egypt. You never hear about this in school, do you? No, you don't. Here you have another Indian. This isn't even in the same area. This is a completely different area. Where were these guys? These guys were over in Hill Kumra. Okay. So they're like near the Canadian border, okay? Talking like New York or something there. And these guys are over in the Grand Canyon area, okay? These American Indians have some sort of heritage with this. These are the actual treasures that were found in the Grand Canyon. Like I said, it was like 2015 or something. And again, look, this is a History Channel, folks. This is from the History Channel. Now, before 2015, like I said, the Smithsonian was saying, oh, there's nothing there. Nothing. That guy never was employed by us, by the way. There's nothing over in the Grand Canyon. What are you talking about? Like saying for 100 years it wasn't there. I had a video, like I think it was in 2012, talking about this. Saying there was something there. Right? Here's some of the actual gold pieces that are from Egypt that were in the Grand Canyon. And here's one of the American Indians in that area. I can't remember which tribe this guy's from. There's so many different tribes, but what else was I going to say? Oh yeah, they had the red-haired, as you would say, giants also near the Grand Canyon, and there was a long thing between the Indians and them there, and I think it ended there. I think it was there at the Grand Canyon that it ended, or near the Grand Canyon. We're talking about one of these. They had a lot of these apparently between the Indians and the giants, and of course this is very ancient history for even them, but they have lots of stories, even books talking about this, okay, between the Indians and the giants. So and I know one of them ended near the Grand Canyon. So it's just amazing, all of this. You never hear about any of this stuff. Like I said, I pulled up some history books that were written by the conquistadors back in what was it like the 1600s or something like that. And I was going through some of the history books that they were writing back then, and it talks about giants all throughout it. Talks about them having, you know, a skull this big, literally, and they even had like this cave with like 3 kings, you know, sitting on their thrones. And I mean, there was a lot of interesting stuff. I did a video talking about that, and that was with the Incas and Mayans and such. They had all their stories about them as well, but it's rather curious, you know, this whole thing. The more I look into this stuff, and I plan on doing a lot of videos like this, because I figure if I found something about India, if I found something about China, if I found something about the American Indians like this, I'm guessing this is everywhere. I'm guessing this is literally everywhere. And I should just do some pretty detailed videos covering some of this. I mean, I'm just barely scratching the surface. I'm just like pointing out little, you know, like the tip of the iceberg here of what is actually here. Look at this. This is one of their carvings right here. Shows one of their ships, and it shows all these people. What do you think this is, folks? Doesn't that look a little bit like Noah? And this is American Indian. Look at this. This looks like ancient hieroglyphs from Egypt. You see this? Look at this. Does this look familiar? Remember a certain basket on the water in Egypt? I mean, this thing is literally written in Egyptian, isn't it? Look at that. That's in America. That was found near Michigan. This stuff is found around the Great Lakes. I mentioned how... Okay, we're going to get back to this in a sec. I have so many things open. Where was it at? I mentioned how they came in. Look, they came in through the Great Lakes. See that? This is where they found a lot of this stuff. So when they first came from, you know, avoiding Babylon, trying to, get away from that, they came in from these two different directions, from near Florida and then through the Great Lakes. Okay? And that's where they found a lot of this stuff in Michigan. Like I said, I grew up there. But a lot of these are from there. Okay? Look at that, man. That's just amazing. Look at this. Looks like the Ark. We're talking to the Covenant here, folks. Very similar looking. Even a similar type of design for... Yeah. Of course, and I've done videos on this as well. Dragons. And there's a lot of this. If you go look at some of the pottery and carvings from the Incas and Mayans, there's tons of this. They'll even show the design of the scales on some of the dinosaurs that they wouldn't even be able to know about if they're supposedly from millions of years ago. They actually had, I saw one Mayan one, and it had the scales exactly right, just the way we know they are, because they got preserved in some honeycomb, or I can't remember what you call it, that amber stuff, whatever, got preserved in that, and they actually had some samples of how the scales actually looked, and it was the exact same as their drawings. And they would show them like riding them, or like, something like this. You know what I mean? And there's like stories like this about dragons everywhere. I'm sure if you see my other videos, you know all about that. But there's tons of those stories as well. So, I mean, it's just pretty amazing, some of the stuff here, folks, that I've found. What else do we got here? There's actually a lot more. They got like tons of these pictures of things like this. Look at this. What in the world? It's like a castle. So this is amazing too. Wow. I don't know. I guess this is something that maybe was made later. I'm not sure. Some of these. What is this one? Oh, this is looks like Egyptian as well. This is also YHVH. Okay, what was it I was going to show you? I was going to show you something else back here. I have so many windows open right now. Yeah, here we go. I think I mentioned about this. They had some scholars actually look into this copper tube that had this parchment and examined it and figured out what it was. And like I said, it was part of the 5 books, okay, as you would say, of Moses. They found these as well in Farmington, Connecticut, on Pinnacle Mountain. As you can see here, also written in Phoenician. You can see Adam, Abraham. So there's a lot of this stuff, folks. It's quite amazing. But at any rate, so there's a lot of stuff there, and you could check out this channel here. Okay, he has a number of videos like this. I haven't even went through them all. I've just went through a little bit of a couple of them, and then there's also another channel I was looking at here as well. Actually, there's a couple channels, but that was one of the main ones I was looking at right there. I was showing you stuff from his video there, because this video is like an hour and 30 minutes long. I'm just showing you some of the highlights of what it says. I'm not going to be making an hour and 30 minute long video here, folks. But at any rate, so also, I mean, considering some of the stuff that we've been seeing of recent, folks, with inflation, and it just, I've been reflecting on this the last couple of days, just how things have been, and I'm just like, wow, look where we're at, man. We don't even know our history. We don't know anything. We have all this technology. We got computers. We got cell phones. And we don't even know our own history. We don't know anything. And then now we have people using these electronics to try to, these computers and everything, to get us to think certain things. You know what I mean? Get us go a certain direction. You've seen all that's been happening the last 2 years. I mean, these are American Indian tribes that had the same traditions for like 1,000 years and still had the same stuff from the ancient times, same ceremonies. Here we are, 2 years' time, they're trying to, like 10, 20 years' time, they're trying to completely change everything. You know what I mean? At any rate, obviously, you've seen kind of what's been going on with inflation, with just the prices in the supermarket have been going up. I've been talking, obviously, at the end of my videos a lot more about some of this, considering the things that we've been seeing. It might be wise to be prepared. I mean, maybe like the American Indians, they knew how to live without electricity. Like this is this book back here. I have a link below for it called The Lost Ways. You may want that book. It tells you how to make a cellar, tells you how to make certain kinds of food that last a long period of time, how to do things around the house without electricity like they used to do back in the old days. And considering some of the stuff we've been seeing of recent, you might want that. You never know, man. I've heard a lot of interesting dreams, and they're not exactly good ones. Okay? All manner of stuff. And you're probably going to want that book indeed for that reason. But also, on top of that, I mean, if you think about it with inflation, recently we had the fuel prices go very high and it was in short supply. And truckers were having issues trying to get to supermarkets. Now, just imagine if that happened to be something that happens for a month straight. You're going to have a lot of empty supermarket shelves. A lot of your favorite goods, Doritos, whatever they might be, may not be available. You got to have your Doritos, you know what I mean? At any rate, I have a link in the description for storable food that has a 25-year shelf life, $247 for 1 month's worth of it. Here's just some of the items that are included. You have broccoli, cheesy broccoli rice soup, creamy stroganoff, traveler stew, mac and cheese, banana chips, mashed potatoes, chocolate pudding, Southwest rice, orange energy drinks, pancakes, and all manner of other things, even oatmeal. Of course, with it having a 25-year shelf life, you're not going to get steaks in there, folks. You know what I mean? But, this is cheaper than it probably cost you already for a month's worth of food. Way cheaper than it would cost you. I was watching a video the other day, some guy in Canada showing how much he was able to get for $100, and it was like nothing. It was like 4 days worth of food at most. I mean, he showed some beef and some bread and just like some random cans of this, that, and the other. It wasn't even that much stuff. It was like about this much stuff. And of course, I think where I live, I could probably buy more. But I mean, maybe in some places it's like that, man. You can't buy very much for $100. But this is only $247 for a month's worth of food. Also, you can even get 3 months worth of food for about $5.97. Links are in the description. Again, like I said, for some people, they may spend this much just for regular food in the supermarket every month, easily. Maybe even more in some cases, depending on where you live. So, again, that's 3 months worth of food. 120 pounds. 120 pounds. And this is dried food. This is already dried. Part of it, at least. I think all of it, actually. I think it all is dried. So imagine if it wasn't dried. You add water to it, you're talking like 300 pounds of food here or something, folks. I mean, it's a lot. It's not a little bit. I mean, it's these canisters that are about this big, and you get like 2 for a month, and they're like this big. They're like 40 pounds each, I think it was. And so you're going to have 6 of those, right? I think it's something like that. Maybe I'm calculating wrong. Something like that. There's 6 of those things. They're really big. At any rate, there's a lot of food in them. But again, links are in the description for that. And also, I would recommend, considering how the dollar is losing value daily, we have things like gold, silver, real estate even. I just came across something rather interesting I'm going to tell you about in a second here about my own house, my mortgage, that you may want to look into, because I'm going to be saving myself a lot of money as a result of it. We're talking, in my case, it's actually not a lot compared to maybe someone else. I mean, $50,000, $60,000 sounds like a huge amount of money, right? I may be saving myself that much money soon here because the bank called me and told me I can get 1% lower APR on my mortgage, right? I'm thinking, okay, well, I'm going to save a little bit of money doing this, right? Maybe I'll refinance, right? Because the rates are really low right now. Okay. So then he went through the mortgage calculator and showed it out. And I'm like, wow. I mean, if I pay just a little bit more than what I'm currently paying with this 1% lower, I can get it down from 30 years to 15 years with only adding a couple $100 onto the end of what I'm already paying with this lower interest rate, shaving like 50,000 off. And I have a low cost mortgage compared to most people because I live in a very cheap place, cost of living wise. I mean, if you're in California, you might be able to save yourself 200,000 bucks or more, maybe 300,000 on your loan. This is what I'm talking about. I mean, like this is a lot. So I would recommend looking into mortgage loans in your area. You might be in for a good surprise on that. You might save yourself a lot of money, pay off your house early even. And like I was saying with real estate and getting onto the whole thing with real estate, prices are the value of real estate is going up right now. If you already have a home, if you're able to lower your payments, and on top of that, the value is going up. It's going up with inflation. The dollar, holding the dollar in your bank account is going nowhere. It's going to just lose value. But I mean, a very simple thing you could put your money into is like silver coins. Silver coins, they only cost 35 bucks for like a half dollar, or essentially 1 ounce of silver. This is what I'm talking about right here. Let's see if I get 1 troy ounce here. Here's an example of something. Yeah, $32 for 1 ounce silver buffalo round, for example, things like this. And if the dollar happens to go to zero, people are going to be using things like this right here, silver coins. And there's different kinds of coins. Some of it can be legal tender. Some can be just, silver rounds or just silver itself. And someone in my comment section was mentioning that. He was like, look, you should explain the difference. I'm not exactly a silver expert. I just know that it's smart to have it. And it probably is wiser to get the ones that are actual tender. They might cost slightly more, but I mean, it will have more value, perceived value in people's minds, especially if the dollar is worthless and you have to use something else. There's also gold. Of course, gold is something that's far more expensive, though. A coin of gold can cost you even $1,000+. That's why I don't usually buy those. I usually buy the silver instead. And it's probably going to be more likely people are going to be using silver than gold. But that's why I think silver's price is going to go through the roof too, if the dollar ends up going to nothing and the economy is gone. All that, you're going to see stocks go to nothing. And maybe once the stocks go to nothing, it might be a wise idea to buy them then, especially if you think it's a company that will be around after the whole thing's over. Other than that, though, I mean, I would definitely not be in stocks right now until after the fact, after you see the thing go down to nothing. But other than that, this is just kind of my advice. You also have the bit, as you would say, coin, as I usually say it. Let me show you what I'm talking about. Right now, the price is down quite a bit from where it was. Now, just to give you an idea, 14 months ago, a little over a year ago, this thing was $4,000. The bit, corn, as we'll call it here, was $4,000 a little over a year ago. Now it is $38,000. Right now it's down. It was actually $70,000 like a little over a month ago. So I was telling people back when it was $4,000 to go buy it. And people are like in the comment section saying, no, I don't think it's a good investment. And they're telling me it's going to go down to 1,000 and be worthless and all this. And I'm like, dude, I think this is the lowest it's ever going to be for, So what I would recommend, I don't know, it's up to you. This is, like I said, this is an investment advice. I'm just some dude talking on YouTube. But the way I look at it, if it goes a lot lower, I would definitely buy one or buy some. You can buy a little bit of it because I think it's going to go up to $150,000 probably by the end of the year. Just my theory. It won't take very long for it to get to $150,000. So it won't be very long at all, especially with the way the dollar's going. It'll be very quick. But that is another way you can retain some of the value of your money. Because you may want to retain it. I mean, do you want to take around wheelbarrows full of money to buy a loaf of bread? Not really. If you have silver, you're going to retain your value while the dollar goes to nothing. So the silver right now, one coin is $32. It might be $300, next year for the same coin, is what I'm trying to get at. So it's going to retain its value, is what I'm trying to get at any rate. So that's kind of my video. Kind of wondering what some of you guys think about all this. Let me know in the comment section below, and thanks for watching.